Welcome to Last Dawn Stories channel. The apocalypse has arrived, and zombies have broken out. Huddled in the jade bracelet space with my parents, we bask under a small sun, eating lamb hot pot and drinking beer, living a blissful life with both cats and dogs, watching my ex-boyfriend's family argue over stale buns in the apartment through the surveillance feed. I even caught a glimpse of his mistress's secret with his father. I've been reborn 4 months before the zombie outbreak. No. The house can't be registered under her name. This is the savings of your father and me from half a lifetime of work. Do you want me to die, Mom? She refuses to budge. What else can I do? The only way is to get her pregnant. Good son, you're so smart. This way, we won't even have to pay the dowry, and we'll get a grandchild. Once her parents pass away, won't all their property belong to my precious son? These words were spoken by my future mother-in-law and my fiancé, Harry. Harry and I met in high school. After 7 years of dating, we both got into university together and were preparing for marriage. He was gentle, considerate, reliable, and hardworking. Through his own efforts, he got into university, supported me, and stayed by my side. My parents were also very satisfied with him, but just as I went to their house to pick up some documents, I overheard this conversation outside the bedroom door. I felt as if I had been plunged into an ice cellar. I couldn't believe that the person who had been by my side for so many years had been scheming against me all along. I'm a native of City A, an only child. Both my parents are retired civil servants who usually enjoy playing with cats and dogs and tending to flowers and plants. They dote on me immensely, even contributing a large portion of the money when we bought our new home for marriage. Lost in thought, Harry walked out of the bedroom, after a brief moment of surprise. He looked at me tenderly and said, "Darling, didn't you go to the company? Why are you back so early?" Hearing his gentle voice, I couldn't help but shiver. I forced a bitter smile. "I've just been a bit tired lately. I want to take some time off to rest." Harry affectionately patted my head and said, "Go home and rest for a while. Don't push yourself too hard." As I looked at that all too familiar face, scenes from the past flashed through my mind. In the past, seeing this man's handsome face and gentle smile would have made my heart race, filling me with immense happiness, and now, the sight of him only fills me with disgust. I'm heading back to the office first. I turned and pressed the elevator button to go down, my heart pounding violently. I couldn't wait to escape this place, hailing a taxi as soon as I stepped outside. Once inside the car, I began recalling everything that had happened after the zombie outbreak. I remembered being trapped at Harry's house during the initial stages, when they revealed their true, ugly nature, slipping sleeping pills into my water and using me as leverage to extort supplies from my parents. They didn't even spare my parents. The scene of Harry and his father working together to knock my dad unconscious and push our whole family into the zombie horde below still feels vivid before my eyes. In the last second before death, all I heard were my parents' agonized screams and the guttural growls of the zombies swarming over them. Sitting in the car now, I'm sobbing uncontrollably. It was my fault they got involved. I'm the one who got them killed. Given this second chance at life, I swear I'll protect my parents no matter what. Harry and his family must pay the price. Watching the endless stream of vehicles, a flood of chaotic information rushed into my mind. The question of how to survive in the apocalypse weighed heavily on me, and soon, mental exhaustion sent me into a deep sleep. "Miss, we've arrived, wake up." I wiped the drool from my mouth and looked around dazedly. After getting out of the car, I handed over an extra 500 yuan and said, "Driver, be careful. The pandemic might surge again soon. Stock up on supplies at home." Back home, looking at Lucky and Hope, tears welled up in my eyes. The chubby Samoyed anxiously circled around my feet. Whimpering, the plump blue cat, Hope, stared at me with a puzzled expression. I don't know if they survived in the end, but in this life, I'll protect them well. "Sweetheart, look what I made today. Your favorite seafood." "Oh dear, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Did you have a fight with Harry?" Mom took off her apron and walked toward me, while Dad stood up from the couch. I wiped away my tears and said, "I know this might sound unbelievable to you right now, but Mom, Dad, you have to believe me." I told them about the zombie apocalypse and how Harry's family had betrayed and killed us. My parents looked surprised, but they didn't want to believe it, thinking it was just too absurd. "Honey, maybe you've been under too much stress at work lately. How about taking a break? Let's go on a vacation to our hometown for a while to relax." "Okay." Dad hugged me with concern. A thought flashed through my mind. My hometown is in the rural area of H City. Left behind by my grandparents, after they passed away, we rarely went back. That place is especially cold in winter, sparsely populated with vast open land. The old family house is still there, it just needs some renovation, and the land is all ready to use. Let's get to it. How about we go to Grandma's house? We can rest there for a month. My dad has always been a doting father. Hearing my words, he waved his hand and immediately started making preparations. My mom shook her head, smiled affectionately, and went to pack our things. Of course, we couldn't leave just yet. First, we had to give Harry and his family a little treat to enjoy. I walked to the balcony, pinched my voice, and called Harry in a sickly sweet tone. Honey, my parents said they want to move back to their hometown and transfer their house to you, since you're the pillar of the family. But first, could you gather some money to buy a small apartment for my parents as a temporary arrangement? Harry hesitated. He wasn't exactly flush with cash, but his opportunistic mother wouldn't let this chance slip by. I heard his mom whispering beside him, hurry up and agree. Her parents live in a huge flat in the city center. Do you know how much that's worth? We could work our whole lives and still never afford it. I sneered, showing their true colors so quickly. I'll have to play along carefully. They're broke. The only way they can afford an apartment is by selling their parents' place at a low price. I have zero interest in that remote little shack of theirs. All I want is to witness them turning on each other when the zombie outbreak hits. Will Harry still be such a devoted son then? I have an apartment in the city center, and Harry doesn't know about it. I asked the agent to sell the apartment to him at a high price, and he didn't hesitate at all. He really went all out for this spacious flat. He used his savings, his parents' life savings, and the money from selling his own house to buy my apartment. I had a technician install high-definition pinhole cameras with audio in the apartment, hoping to enjoy the show when the apocalypse comes. After their family moved to the apartment, I contacted Harry to get various documents for the transfer process. Then I set off on the journey back to my hometown. After arranging the shipping for Lucky and Hope, I started pondering, although I'm somewhat wealthy myself, could the apocalyptic disasters bring extreme cold weather? Would stockpiling supplies alone be enough to survive? Absolutely not. What if we encounter extreme heat, extreme cold, earthquakes, fires, or even floods and acid rain? I must be fully prepared. I must make money. The legal way to make money is loans. Yes, loans. I searched all kinds of websites and apps that offer loans, cashed out a significant amount, and even mortgaged my apartment and flat, including Harry's parents' house. I now have about $180 million in my hands. I've never seen so much money in my life. Without a moment's delay, I started stockpiling supplies, of course keeping it a secret from my parents. I planned to find the right opportunity to tell my parents about the apocalypse. They've worked in central government agencies their whole lives, so accepting something like this would be very difficult for them. I rented the warehouse next to my hometown villa and boarded a flight to City H with my parents. Listening to the roar of the plane taking off, I gazed at the familiar City A, wondering what it would become after the apocalypse arrives. I suddenly felt sad. Mom held my hand and said, "What's wrong, sweetheart? We'll be back after the vacation. Don't worry too much. Mom and Dad will always be with you." Looking at the white hair at Mom's temples and her no longer youthful face, I grew even more sorrowful. I don't want to worry about anything else now, as long as my parents and I stay safe in this apocalyptic world. When our family arrived at the old house, the cleaning crew was just about to finish their work. Dad looked at the cleaned-up old house and sighed. "We're back here again. It's so nostalgic." I still remember there was a dog hole at the back door. He wandered off talking to himself, and one of the cleaning ants came up to call out to me, "Oh my, miss, I found this jade bracelet in the top cabinet. I didn't touch it. It looks quite expensive. I don't recall ever seeing this bracelet before," and Dad also said he hadn't seen it either. Mom was checking the yard for a good spot to raise fish and plant flowers when she heard our commotion and came over to look. "Isn't this your grandmother's bracelet? How did it end up here? I thought she had lost it." "She wore this bracelet her whole life. It was meant for you. Go on, put it on." Finally, the bracelet slipped onto my wrist, half green flowers, half purple, truly a masterpiece of spring colors, embodying both mountain and water. No time to waste, I quickly pulled my parents to sit down. "The apocalypse is coming, and we don't have much time left." My parents looked at me with suspicion and concern. "Go rest, sweetheart. You'll feel better after a nap. Your dad and I will check if we need any new furniture. Can you go pick up Lucky and Hope?" I was at my wit's end. It really wasn't something easy to believe, but how could I make my parents trust me? I suddenly remembered that in a few days, a famous actress would be exposed for massive tax evasion. the one Mom really likes," I said. "In a few days, that famous actress will be exposed for tax evasion, Mom and Dad. You have to believe me, I'm not mentally unstable." Seeing me getting more and more agitated, my parents had no choice but to reassure me. All right, what do you need us to do? Reinforce this villa, replace everything with the best materials." My parents gave a perfunctory agreement, and on my way to pick up Lucky and Hope, I contacted a door and window technician to come and take measurements. At the same time, I also ordered a large amount of dog and cat food. In the apocalypse, it's essential to conserve water as much as possible. So to address the bathroom issue, I got 300 boxes of cat litter first. After picking up Lucky and Hope, I made a detour to the pet market to stock up on various small toys and treats for cats and dogs. I also bought medications for potential pet illnesses and grabbed a few small outfits, just in case the temperature drops during the apocalypse. Catching sight of a whimpering little husky locked in a cage, its big, wet eyes staring at me, I wondered if Lucky might get lonely as the only dog. Also, to add some fun to our post-apocalyptic life, I brought it home and named it Kiki. With a wave of my hand, I directly bought out all the trucks in the boss's shop and had everything delivered home. I made a detour to the building materials market next door. On the way, I was thinking that the villa's defensive capabilities weren't strong, the structure of the house wasn't great, and its storage capacity was quite poor. Just the cat litter I bought would probably fill up the warehouse. What if there's a power and water outage by then? Is solar power alone really enough? And how do we handle the garbage? The air pollution after the zombie outbreak brings a series of viruses that can't be underestimated. I still need to figure out a solution. After arriving at the building materials market, I asked around and finally found this inconspicuous little shop. Pushing open the door, I was immediately blinded by the thick smoke inside and asked, "I want to renovate a villa. And it's urgent, do you take the job?" The boss was a middle-aged man in his 40s with a stubbly beard, casually holding up his newspaper as he said, "I don't take that kind of job, you should go across the street." I pulled out a chair and sat down, saying, "I came specifically for you." He set the newspaper aside, glanced at me, and asked, "How do you want it built?" I told him I wanted to create an absolutely impenetrable safe fortress. My villa is 2 stories high. First, I want a 3-level, 200 square meter basement, with soundproofing and fireproofing materials installed throughout the entire house, along with a whole house air purification and water circulation system. Install pinhole cameras in every corner, the kind that can withstand extreme cold and drought, the best of the best, leaving no blind spots. Outside my villa, there's an 80 square meter garden and a 50 square meter front yard. Build a 3-meter high wall around it, topped with another 3-meter high electric fence. Install wind and hydroelectric power systems near the villa. I remember there's a large waterfall next to the villa. Combined with the solar panels I'll install on the warehouse and the villa's roof, we should be able to achieve energy independence. Right? The boss widened his eyes and looked at me. "Miss, wait, building that thing there will get you arrested. Please find someone else. The door is to the right. I won't see you out." I smiled and said, "Money isn't an issue. I can pay you 3 times the price. You can start by renovating first, and then build the generator when I give the word. That place is about to be abandoned anyway. No one will notice. Think it over and call me when you've decided." I left my number and pretended to leave. But he immediately grabbed me in a panic and said, "You haven't finished yet. Keep talking. All the materials for the entire house must be top tier, including doors, windows, everything. Install bulletproof glass for me, apply one-way film, and uniformly add an outer layer of security net and security bars, which should also be electrified. Reinforce the entire exterior of the villa with reinforced concrete, with double layers for insulation and soundproofing. I remember there's a balcony on the 2nd floor. Build a glass enclosure for it and equip it with soundproofing foam. Install rainwater collectors and filters in my garden and front yard, and construct 2 water storage tanks. Wait until I think of other things for you to modify, but in any case, make sure to build me a massive safe that even an American cannon can't blast open. Oh, and make sure only my iris can open any of the locks. Thanks." The boss eyed me suspiciously and asked, "What are you building this for?" "Don't ask about that. I have the money, and I'll pay the deposit. Just focus on doing your job well." I immediately transferred him a $5 million deposit without stopping, urging him to speed up the preparations. Indeed, money can make people shut up. The boss immediately got busy after receiving the payment and promised to start work tomorrow. I was exhausted today. After visiting the building materials market, I went straight home, worn out. I lay sprawled on the bed after showering, not wanting to deal with anything. I dried my hair with a towel and quickly fell into a deep sleep. I was woken up by the sound of renovation at noon the next day. When I went downstairs, I realized that the uncle had already brought people to start the work. I saw my dad smugly pouring tea for the uncle. "Master, you've worked hard. Is there anything else I can help you with here?" My mom curled up on the sofa with a bitter expression and said, "That actress really evaded taxes. I liked her so much." Sigh, she really let me down. After this incident happened, my parents absolutely obeyed any instructions I gave them. Mom took on the tasks of inventorying supplies and overseeing the house renovations at home, while Dad and I split up to handle different responsibilities. He went to buy large quantities of seeds and various tools like picks and hoes, things I didn't understand, so I continued to focus on procuring supplies. During this time, Harry called me repeatedly to push for the house transfer, but I kept putting him off with excuses. I told him my mom was sick and I couldn't leave, asking him to wait a little longer. He didn't suspect anything. After all, it was like a pie falling from the sky for him. 2 months have passed, and now there are only 2 months left until the apocalypse arrives. The renovation of the house is also nearing completion. I generously sent the uncle several large red envelopes, urging him to beware of the virus resurgence and to stock up on food while staying at home. Although the house is already quite sturdy, I still feel extremely anxious. The supplies are far from enough, and I have no idea how many years the zombie outbreak will last. Can our family survive until the national rescue arrives? These questions torment me, leaving me unable to eat or sleep well. In the half-dreaming state of night, sudden fear spreads, and I dream again of our family being swallowed by zombies. My eyes snap open to the sight of a pitch-black ceiling, feeling only my racing heartbeat and my body turning ice-cold. Suddenly, a warm current flows into my wrist. I followed the sensation and reached out, only to find the bracelet emitting a faint glow, an eerie feeling creeping all over my body. Suddenly, I found myself in a gray space, pitch black and impossible to see anything. Just as I thought, why is it so dark? The space abruptly lit up. I glanced around. It was a small space of about 5 cubic meters. Before I could stay for more than a few seconds, I was yanked out. In a daze, I was back sitting on the bed, utterly stunned. Was that a space? I never thought the space would actually exist, and it's in my hands. Too excited to sleep, I immediately went to the table to figure out how to use it, probably through mental focus. I placed my hand on the tablet and silently thought, "Store." I flashed into the space again and found not only the tablet inside, but also, the space seemed to have expanded slightly. Could it be that valuable items make the space grow larger? I wasted no time opening the jewelry box and storing all the gold bracelets and necklaces inside into my space. I discovered that not only had the volume of the space increased, but the duration I could stay inside had also lengthened. With the space in my possession, I fell asleep contentedly, dreaming of the blissful and happy life I was already living. Early the next morning, as the sky was just beginning to lighten with the first hint of dawn, I arrived at the gold market. I want to go on a big shopping spree here. Although buying gold bars would be the most convenient, purchasing large quantities might attract unwanted attention. That's hard to say for sure, so I could only use cash to buy from different places. I didn't bother haggling with the shop owners and simply took all the designs with significant weight in grams. On the way, I also stopped by the nearby jade market and bought quite a few raw stones. Looking at my space, which had expanded dozens of times, I drove home feeling delighted. Arriving at the neighboring warehouse, I waved my hand and stored all the purchased items into my space. I discovered that not only had the space expanded, but grass and soil had also emerged on the ground. Delighted, I wondered, since there was air here, could living beings be stored as well? I tried to bring hope into the space, but it didn't work. I was utterly disappointed. Was the space's level still too low? What other valuable items could there be? Early the next morning, I set out again to purchase some weapons and vehicles for survival in the apocalypse. If a tsunami or earthquake really happens, it's essential to have a boat and a car, right? I bought the highest specification yacht and off-road vehicle, storing them in my space, along with several additional SUVs. I also placed orders for 100 sets of extreme cold weather gear, 100 ultra-thick down jackets, 5,000 pairs of long socks, 200 thermal sleeping bags, 1,000 kerosene lamps, 1,000 portable stoves, 40 sets of down quilts, and made sure to stock up on earmuffs, masks, and hats, 400 sets of summer and winter pajamas each. Even in the apocalypse, skincare can't be forgotten. I bought 300 full sets of La Mer, Soap saves more water, so I took 300 bars of my favorite pomegranate-scented ones, for daily necessities like cotton swabs, facial towels, tissues, and bath towels. I stocked up by the box. With space now available, supplies can only increase, never decrease. When I got home, I found that Mom and Dad hadn't been idle either. They had transported a considerable amount of medicine and food to the warehouse. After taking inventory, I saw that cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, fever reducers, and all kinds of remedies for minor ailments were stocked in abundance. There was always more. Nevertheless, I couldn't help but ask with embarrassment, "Dad, where did you buy these from?" "Won't buying in bulk draw attention?" Dad said proudly. "Don't worry about it. All right, your old man has his connections, and they're all the freshest dates." Dad and I went to the warehouse to take stock of the medicine and happened to run into Mom, who was purchasing rice, flour, and cooking oil. Mom parked the large truck and organized the workers from the following fleet to unload the goods: 500 bags of rice, 500 bags of flour, 500 bags each of soybeans, black beans, and mung beans, 100 bags of white fungus, dried mushrooms, dried fruits, jerky, as well as preserved meats like bacon, cured chicken, and cured duck that can be stored for a long time, all bought by the crate. When the apocalypse comes, we definitely can't guarantee vitamin supplies, so buy more multivitamins, calcium tablets, protein powder, melatonin, and the like, 100 bottles of each. Don't go overboard, though. You can't take this stuff every day. Mom also stocked up on plenty of dried seafood, kelp, various canned fish, dried shrimp, scallops, seaweed, and dried fish. My uric acid is high, so I can't eat too much of this stuff. 50 crates of vinegar, 500 bags of salt, and 100 crates each of soy sauce, oyster sauce, and garlic oil. Stock up on more hot pot base. Let's get 600 boxes. It'll make everything stir-fried taste amazing. As for vegetables, I'm not in a hurry yet. I want to upgrade the space first and see if I can grow things inside. After all, the land has already refreshed, so fresh vegetables are just around the corner. Of course, this is just what I'm thinking. I haven't told Mom and Dad yet. I'm afraid they might not be able to accept it. Let's keep counting for now. Flour, rice, cooking oil, and oil too. 300 crates each of soybean oil, peanut oil, and rapeseed oil. Mom said that when the apocalypse is about to arrive, we'll render more lard to store. The unloading worker asked, "Why are you buying so much of this stuff? Can you even finish it all?" My dad put on an innocent face and said, "We're preparing to support impoverished mountain regions. Gotta contribute to society, right? Otherwise, how could we live up to our country?" That uncle pursed his lips after hearing this, turned his head away, and muttered quietly, "Rich people really have too much money to burn." Suddenly, it occurred to me, could cigarettes and alcohol also increase the space's area? I immediately drove my minivan out to sweep through tobacco and liquor stores. Wherever there was stock, I bought it all, splitting my purchases across several stores and having the merchants load the goods into my van before storing them in the space. This time, I noticed not only had the space expanded, but there was also air circulation, and surprisingly, a control panel had appeared. Only the temperature and warehouse panels were unlocked above, with a note that only one living being can be carried in. Then if I keep upgrading, wouldn't it be equivalent to having a shelter in the apocalypse? In the following time, I kept upgrading the space: alcohol, cigarettes, gold, collected supplies, heavy-duty off-road vehicles, ships, helicopters. The space grew larger and larger, reaching the size of 10 sports fields. The number of living beings that could be carried also increased to 40. Strangely, I noticed the space's growth rate was slowing down. Could it be that gold, alcohol, and cigarettes were no longer enough to satisfy it? The appetite is truly insatiable, even while pondering. I didn't neglect the renovations at home. Now that we have the space, we can eat, drink, sleep, and relieve ourselves within it, so there's no need to reserve so much area anymore. I converted the underground space into a gym and a home theater, complete with a billiards room, table tennis room, and badminton court. I downloaded all the trending web series, like True Ring Legend, Only If. No matter how many times I watch them, they never get old. There are also board games, playing cards, tablets, and more. I also installed a lot of fitness equipment to help us maintain strong physiques during the apocalypse. I converted the bottom floor into a library, just in case civilization needs rebuilding after the apocalypse. I'd at least have preserved a part of it. I should buy more poultry and livestock to ensure our meat supply. I explained the space situation to my parents in detail and even took them inside to see it for themselves. After that, they stayed in the space for several days straight, even bringing Lucky, Hope, and Kiki along to get used to the new environment. I did consider whether to move the villa into the space as well, but Dad said it wouldn't work. The electricity issue alone was unsolvable. What about our trash and waste? We still have to dispose of it in the villa's waste processor. Staying in the space indefinitely isn't the best solution. We also need to know when the apocalypse will end. What if the space malfunctions? I had no choice but to give up, but I did store a small farmhouse in the space. My parents have been continuously improving the space, giving me a shopping list every day, and I buy whatever is missing. I went to the market and bought 5 chickens, 3 ducks, 2 geese, and some fish fry. In just over half a month, my parents transformed the space into a veritable paradise, digging a well and plowing the fields. Seeing their childlike smiles, I grew less and less worried about the coming apocalypse. I almost forgot, without fuel, how am I supposed to use my car? I had Dad contact someone to buy several barrels of fuel stored in the space, and sure enough, the space expanded again. Along with the fuel came drones, binoculars, knives, stun guns, flashlights, baseball bats. Dad said we still need to be cautious of criminals even in the apocalypse. Although we have the space, it's better to be safe. The apocalypse has truly arrived. For the past few months, preparing for the end times, our family hasn't had a proper meal. Today, Mom made sweet and sour pork, borscht, stir-fried cured meat with Artemisia selingensis, and lightly sautéed baby bok choy. After taking a sip of the borscht, I snapped back to reality, making sure all the doors and windows were securely closed and all the surveillance cameras were turned on. As we ate, I kept an eye on the surroundings through the tablet. After eating our fill, Dad went to wash the dishes while Mom and I curled up on the sofa watching a TV drama. Mom asked me worriedly, "Honey, we've done so much, invested everything, what if nothing happens in the end?" I was also a bit doubtful and was just about to open social media. Suddenly, my dad told us to go look from the second-floor balcony. We saw that checkpoints had already been set up on the roads, and no one was allowed to leave the city. Several drivers were just about to get out of their cars to argue when suddenly, a striking red supercar suddenly appeared, and a woman in a dress leaped out, pouncing on a driver and frantically biting him. The surrounding cars panicked, swerving chaotically as the sounds of horns and screams filled the air. I thought to myself, this is bad, and immediately opened social media on my phone. The term zombies had already surged to the top of the trending list. Someone had uploaded a video showing scenes of people biting others all over the city center. Those who were bitten would stand up within seconds and start attacking those around them. Strangely, however, they didn't seem to attack other zombies. The city is in complete chaos now, and the government has issued a message: please stay indoors, prepare an adequate amount of food, and ensure your safety. Trust us. We will take rescue measures as soon as possible. I picked up the binoculars and looked outside. Cars were scattered haphazardly on the road, and those still able to move were fleeing frantically. However, vehicles stuck in the middle of the road were already under siege by zombies. In less than 5 minutes, they were all overrun. Terrified, I locked the windows, drew the curtains, and turned to see my parents huddled on the sofa. I double-checked all the doors and windows, then walked over and hugged them tightly, whispering, "It's okay, we'll be fine." I snuggled between my parents. As long as they're by my side, I'm not afraid of anything, no matter what comes. The recent events left us all silent. Lucky, who had been bullying Hope, lightened the heavy atmosphere. Lucky was covered in fur. It had pulled off Hope while roughhousing. Day 2 of the apocalypse. After what happened last night, none of us had much appetite. We just boiled some noodles and scrambled 3 eggs to make do with a simple meal. After breakfast, we held a family meeting. None of the 3 of us should respond to any messages or calls. We must pretend to have lost contact in this apocalyptic world, as the most terrifying thing in such times is human nature. We'll soon start taking shifts to guard against zombies and prevent anyone from entering our villa. However, our location should be relatively safe. There aren't many residents around, though recently quite a few tourists have been visiting H City. Most of those vehicles were probably tourists, who had just come down from the highway exit. With the surveillance running 24/7, there was no need for someone to be on duty at all times. Dad was an early riser, so he took the watch from 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. During the afternoon and evening, we were all active and could help keep an eye out. As for the period from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., I took over since I was used to staying up late. After the meeting, I opened a bag of tomato-flavored chips, sipped on Yakult, and curled up on the sofa staring at the surveillance feed. Mom and Dad were busy in the kitchen. Suddenly, I realized I hadn't received a call from Harry in a long time. When I checked my phone, there were over 30 missed calls. I immediately switched the surveillance feed to the small apartment. Harry and his parents were arguing about something, with a woman standing beside them. Upon closer look, wasn't that his colleague, Kathy? I think. I'd met her a few times before, never thought they'd already gotten involved. Fortunately, I had installed voice-capable surveillance back then. Listening to their conversation, it seemed like they wanted to kick her out. Why didn't Harry's dad say anything about it? In a blind spot where Harry couldn't see, Kathy gave her dad a meaningful look. Her dad immediately slammed the table and shouted, "Enough, stop arguing. More people mean more help. What's the big deal? Besides, don't we still have food at home?" Harry and his mom immediately fell silent and went about their own business. It's not that my mind is dirty, but looking at this scene, why do I feel like this colleague has something going on with Harry's dad in private? Smelling the delicious aroma of the food, I immediately ran to the dining table. Seeing the 4 dishes and 1 soup laid out, I was filled with happiness. Stir-fried sliced pork with king oyster mushrooms, boneless chicken feet mixed with cucumber, braised chicken, and meatball soup. I cooed to my mom, "Mom, your cooking is amazing. It's so wonderful to be your daughter." Mom glanced at me and said, all right, go call your dad for dinner." I cast the surveillance footage onto the TV, and we kept an eye on the monitor while eating. I also took the opportunity to feed Lucky and Kiki their dog food. As for Hope, it had canned food for lunch and was now grooming itself on the cat tree. It was still the early stages of the zombie outbreak, and we managed to live peacefully for a month. Despite the hardships, there was a sense of comfort, and Harry's household remained calm too. He has given up on calling me now, resorting instead to bombarding me with text messages. I believe once the internet and food supplies are cut off, their family will put on quite a show. The zombies kept wandering at the intersection, their movements already very sluggish from not feeding for many days. I noted in my notebook, zombies become slow when they go without food for too long. Holding binoculars, I occasionally watched the zombies at the intersection, thinking to myself, this area is full of farms with root cellars storing winter provisions. As long as the zombies can't find food, they should eventually leave. Suddenly, I spotted an off-road vehicle speeding toward us from the distance. Judging by its direction, it would inevitably pass by our house. The driver was a man in a suit, with supplies in the passenger seat, and a man and a woman sitting in the back. Is the car running out of gas? It wasn't going very fast, and I noticed 4 or 5 zombies chasing the rear of the car. I saw a zombie's hand reach through the window and grab the woman's arm. She desperately leaned back, and I could even see the muscles on her face trembling. Suddenly, the man in the back seat opened the door, trying to push the woman out and throw her at the zombies. Not a real man at all, sacrificing a woman to save himself. While cursing the man, I praised the telescope for being incredibly effective. Unexpectedly, the woman dragged the man down with her at the last moment. After the two fell into the zombie horde, the driver suddenly accelerated. It was then that I realized, he had done it on purpose. He wanted to kill his companion to keep all the supplies for himself. The zombies stopped chasing, too busy tearing apart the two who had fallen. Meanwhile, the man sped toward my house. I sensed danger and quickly called for my parents, then safely stored the dog and cat in my space. Father said gravely, "This man's survival is a threat to us. We must eliminate him." I replied, "We'll play it by ear, if it really comes to that. We'll retreat into the space." The man approached the door and shouted loudly, "Is anyone there? Can you help me? I'm willing to share my supplies. Just let me stay with you." Our soundproofing was effective, so we could only hear his faint voice. Seeing no response from us, he grabbed an axe from the passenger seat and stepped out. He originally intended to chop the door lock, but since I had set it up as an iris scanner, he couldn't find the lock and had to hack at the gaps instead. After a few futile attempts, he gave up and returned to his car, preparing to start the engine. We took a deep breath, thinking he was about to leave. Our family stared intently at the surveillance feed, hoping he would hurry up and go. To our surprise, he parked the car next to the wall, suited up in climbing gear, and prepared to scale the wall by force. My heart nearly leaped into my throat as I watched him about to climb onto the electrified fence. I shouted at my dad, "Pull the switch, now." The powerful electric current knocked him to the ground, his skin scorched black and his hair standing on end from the shock. I looked at his corpse and collapsed to the ground, still trembling with fear. "Dad, are we safe now?" Dad hugged me to comfort me. "It's okay, it's okay. If we hadn't killed him, he would have hurt others." I set it to the highest setting. He shouldn't be able to survive. But I noticed Dad's forehead was also drenched in sweat. Our whole family was badly shaken. We'd never done anything like this before. Mom helped me lie down on the sofa and, looking at my condition, said, "It's okay, it's okay. I'll make you some egg wine to drink. You should rest for a while." I snapped back to reality and thought, let's just leave the corpse there. Having more zombies around our house might actually make it safer. Mom suggested growing some vegetables in the space, like baby bok choy, which is suitable for this season and grows quickly. In the evening, Mom made chicken soup, and Dad helped serve the rice. The fragrant aroma of the chicken soup filled my nostrils. In the apocalypse, the fear could always be soothed by a good meal. After eating and drinking our fill, we huddled on the electric blanket playing cards. The temperature had been dropping rapidly lately, with significant differences between day and night. Mom couldn't stand the cold anymore. So we officially moved into the space. We transferred the surveillance feed to a tablet and brought it inside with us to keep watch. With nothing else to do, Mom and Dad spent their time growing vegetables and feeding the chickens. Lucky and Kiki ran wild on the grass, ruining quite a few of Dad's flowers, while Hope still curled up on the cat tree. I could live like this forever. The zombie outbreak has been going on for a month now. Internet and communication networks are still functioning, but the water supply has been cut off. It's been a long time since I checked the surveillance at Harry's house. When I switched to the feed, the scene before me left me utterly stunned. Kathy and Harry's dad started getting busy right on the sofa. That old man has no shame at all. I couldn't bear to watch another second. It was just disgusting, but I took a screenshot anyway, just in case it might come in handy later. So I switched the surveillance to the bedroom and saw Harry's mother lying on the bed, seemingly with a fever. A cooling patch still stuck to her forehead. Did Harry go out to look for supplies? Do they still have food? Where did the cooling patch come from? These questions swirled in my mind. At this stage, the internet was still working, so I opened the neighborhood group chat on my phone and finally understood. It turned out the government had distributed rice and flour to every household, which was how Harry's family had survived. I flipped through the records, which initially were filled with requests for supplies from different homeowners, but gradually devolved into all kinds of curses and vulgar insults, becoming unbearable to hear, until finally the insults were directed at the government and the nation. Our country deeply recognized the severity of the zombie problem and took measures before the virus could spread widely. Orders were issued for all regions to conduct a second round of supply distribution, and citizens living in areas with fewer zombies were encouraged to take self-rescue measures. The government used text messages and radio broadcasts to announce, after this rescue operation, there may be no further supply distributions for an extended period. Citizens are advised to prepare for long-term home survival by stockpiling large amounts of drinking water. Please trust the nation. Without the support of national supplies, the apocalypse has only just begun. Every major platform is flooded with cries for help. In nearly every video, the sounds of weeping, biting, and sirens compose the world's final symphony of death. Survivors who endured a month are beginning to witness the darkness of human nature. As death approaches, crime rates are slowly rising. Every place with supplies, shopping malls, supermarkets, convenience stores, even schools, was completely looted. People desperate to survive stormed into alleys, burning, killing, and plundering. Humanity seemed to regress to a primitive world where the strong preyed on the weak, and the law crumbled at the slightest touch in the face of survival. We weren't afraid, though. There was a well in our space, and I had also stockpiled a large amount of bottled water. Without government aid, Harry's family soon ran out of supplies, and Harry had no choice but to take the risk and join the looting. While Harry was out, I saw his father and that Kathy preparing to throw his mother off the balcony. My eyes widened in shock. This was just too cruel. After all, they had been married for decades. My parents were also sighing beside me. Of course, I took screenshots. Harry is such a mama's boy. I wonder how he'd react if he saw this scene. In this August, the weather grew colder and colder, and snow began to fall. We sat on an electric blanket, warming ourselves by a small heater. Mom made clear soup lamb today, served with tofu skin, crown daisy, watercress, and the baby bok choy she grew herself. We gathered around the table, sipping chilled beer, enjoying ourselves leisurely, watching Harry on the monitor, his face bruised and swollen, holding just a steamed bun in his hand. His father gave Harry a displeased look. just one bun, after raising you all these years. You're completely useless. Are you trying to starve this old man to death? Kathy supported his father and said, Uncle, don't be angry. Harry sat on the sofa with a cold expression and said, I traded the remaining supplies for fever-reducing medicine for Mom. We'll have to make do. I never expected this bastard would still think of getting fever medicine for his mother. Seeing the darkening expressions on Kathy and his father's faces, Harry also realized something. I should add fuel to the fire. Send Harry the photos of them conspiring together, showing his mother and his own girlfriend getting involved with his father. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging, as he rushed forward and slapped Kathy hard, sending her tumbling to the ground. Furious, he went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. I turned off the surveillance. Seeing this much was enough. They wouldn't survive anyway. My goal was achieved. So I continued enjoying the steaming lamb hot pot with my parents. Another 6 months passed, and it was almost New Year's. All these months, we had been holed up in the space. I passed the time by watching TV shows, while Mom keeps herself busy knitting little sweaters for Hope and Lucky. Why not knit for Kiki? It's growing way too fast. It's almost as big as Lucky now, and they never seem bored. There's plenty of space for them to run around. Dad is still busy with his vegetable garden, which has now expanded to include fruit trees. The little chicks have grown up and started laying eggs. The fish fry have also grown and are ready to be steamed and eaten. I dug out a pair of dusty couplets from the bottom of the storage and pasted them on the door of the small farmhouse. The cats and dogs all wore red sweaters knitted by Mom, and our family also dressed in red clothes. We changed to red bed sheets and pillowcases, turned on last year's Spring Festival gala. And it finally felt a bit like the new year. Steamed sea bass, braised pork ribs, cola chicken wings, spicy blood tofu, dry pot cauliflower, cumin beef, slow-cooked duck soup, plus a dish of sugar-marinated tomatoes made from the tomatoes Dad grew. We all hope the apocalypse will end as soon as possible. In the second year of the apocalypse, one early morning, we heard on the radio that the government had established a safe base in City H. The nation had dispatched countless teams to eliminate zombies and rescue survivors. The government urged survivors to make their own way to the safe base, where they could obtain food and shelter through labor. Our family unanimously decided not to go. We have sufficient supplies and don't need to take this risk. We believe staying put is the best option. In the fourth year of the apocalypse, experts developed a vaccine, and humanity officially launched its offensive against the zombies. Countless survivors signed up for the search and rescue teams, and everything gradually began to improve. By the 6th year of the apocalypse, with the last zombie eliminated, the war finally came to an end. It turned out that the zombie virus was extracted by Country M from ancient glaciers. Initially, they only intended to release it in our country's City S and City A. Little did they expect that the virus would exceed their predictions, bringing calamity not only to themselves but to the entire world. Our family sorted through the supplies in the space and decided to anonymously donate 90% of them to the H City Safety Base, doing our small part for the country. We'll use the name, SAFE, for the donation, hoping that people all over the world can stay safe and sound. Thanks to the supplies donated by SAFE, H City became the largest relief base in the country. The 6 years of disasters have caused a drastic reduction in the Earth's population, but our country and government never gave up on the people, making it the nation with the highest survival rate after the catastrophe. However, the number of survivors is still only a quarter of what it was before the apocalypse. Everything will get better and better, right? I believe. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, let's continue to see another similar story. The fake heiress reborn before the apocalypse. I suspect the fake heiress has been reborn. Not only does she refuse to let our parents choose between us, she even secretly warns Mom that the apocalypse is coming and zombies will overrun the earth. My biological parents chose to believe her and started borrowing money to hoard supplies like mad. The fake heiress stood in the perfect safe house, looking at me with smug satisfaction. You'll never win our parents' love, and you'll never surpass me. I curled my lips into a smile, then turned and handed the zombie virus antidote to the military district. Fools remain fools even after rebirth. No doomsday. I wonder how you'll handle all those usurious loans. Mom, sister has suffered so much over these past 10 years. Just let her in. My head was splitting with pain, and the bite on my neck from the zombies still seemed to ache. Judy stood before me at the door. But unlike in my past life when she forced our parents to choose between her and me, this time she showed no displeasure at all about my reunion with them. I know, she has also been reborn. In my previous life, I went to my parents with the paternity test results, and only then did they realize the daughter they had raised for over a decade was a fake heiress, Judy. Afraid that my arrival would steal our parents' affection and unwilling to give up the family's wealth. Forced them to choose between us. If you dare choose this shabby Molly, I'll leave, and you'll never see me again in this lifetime. Judy was the apple of her parents' eyes, growing up with a sense of invincibility and entitlement. Without hesitation, her parents chose Judy and kicked me out. The day after I was driven away, the apocalypse arrived, and the world was overrun by zombies. I successfully awakened fire-based abilities and later rescued Judy and our parents during a mission. My parents played the emotional card, and Judy tearfully apologized to me, begging me to take her in. Having never experienced familial love growing up, I believed them and brought them to the base, even sharing the food I had worked so hard to find with them. But Judy showed no gratitude. Instead, she resented my status at the base. Why, she's just a lowlife from the slums. How does she deserve to live better than me now? During a zombie horde attack on the base, Judy pushed me off the city wall. Before dying, I saw the anxious looks in my parents' eyes, but they were only discussing how to help Judy avoid blame. Yet in this lawless post-apocalyptic world, who needs to avoid blame? Reborn once more, my parents still unhesitatingly stood by Judy's side. Judy, you really don't mind? Mom stared at Judy's face, not wanting to miss any micro-expression, and asked cautiously. Only after confirming that Judy had no dissatisfaction did she step aside. Opening the door just a crack to let me in, she didn't forget to lay down the rules for me. Molly, since you're back, don't cause any trouble. Always remember that you can come back only because Judy doesn't hold it against you. From now on, you're the older sister. You must take good care of your little sister and never let her be bullied. I ignored her and walked straight into the bedroom. So rude. Who knows if she grew up in the countryside? Our Judy is much better. Mom, don't mind her. I have something important to tell you. Judy pulled her mother aside and whispered. My heart stirred, and I quietly followed them. Mom, Dad, don't be scared. Everything I'm saying is true. Only after her parents nodded did Judy continue speaking. I'm actually reborn. In just a few days, zombies will appear, and the world will come to an end. Many people will awaken special abilities, but our family had bad luck. Almost none of us awakened any powers. Mom touched Judy's forehead. No fever. Why are you talking nonsense? Dad looked furious. It must be Molly coming back that upset Judy so much she's talking crazy. I'll go chase her away right now. Judy anxiously grabbed him. Dad, don't make things worse. We're running out of time. Let's first buy a lot of food to stock at home, then get some daily necessities. Although her parents didn't quite believe her, they still nodded in agreement. After all, this was their daughter, whom they had cherished since childhood. They just reluctantly sold their storefront and used the money to buy supplies. Seeing that her parents didn't fully trust her, Judy made a prediction about the future. It's May now, but tomorrow there will be hail. We're in a southern city here. Forget about hailstones in May. We don't even get snow in winter. But when we woke up the next day, it was just as Judy had said. Hail had fallen overnight, and the cars in the parking lot were all damaged. This time, my parents were completely convinced. Besides the house we currently live in, they urgently sold off the storefront and cars, converted everything to cash, and started stockpiling supplies. They ordered dozens of tons of rice and flour, bought several large freezers, and filled them with chicken, duck, fish, and goose. We also bought a lot of daily necessities, clothes, underwear, and bathroom supplies, hauling them home truckload after truckload. In the later stages of the apocalypse, the hardest thing to find will be anti-inflammatory drugs. We should stock up now. Later, a single pill could be traded for a cow, so Mom bought a lot of medicine from drug dealers, anti-inflammatory drugs, cold and fever medicine, painkillers, antibiotics, bandages, disinfectant, thermometers, and so on. I quietly recited chemical formulas to myself, pretending not to see the unreasonable stockpiling. Judy not only had someone reinforce the doors and windows but also installed solar panels on the balcony. Later, zombies did indeed chew through power lines, causing widespread blackouts in the city. Installing solar panels was her way of preparing for a rainy day, but foolish people remain foolish no matter how many times they are reborn. It never occurred to her how conspicuous such a large solar panel would be in the apocalypse, let alone the fact that solar panels reflect light. Later, when others run out of food and come out to forage, her solar panels will definitely make her the first to be exposed. Although her parents are wealthy, They don't live in a villa but rather in a Western-style house, with 2 households per elevator. The weight capacity of the floor is also a major issue. In the apocalypse, the scarcest resource is clean water, and water is the hardest to store because it can't be compressed. But Judy didn't store much water. Probably thinking the little rain would be enough, what she considered even less was the need to handle daily waste. Throwing garbage directly downstairs would be noticed by other survivors in the same community on the very first day. In the apocalypse, human nature is more terrifying than zombies, but I won't remind her. Instead, I'll calmly stay home and study. In my previous life, I returned home to reunite with my family a month before the college entrance exams. My parents, using Judy's exams as a major life event as an excuse, asked me to stay elsewhere until her exams were over, but they forgot. Judy and I were both in our final year of high school, and I had to take the exams too. After Judy predicted several extreme weather events, my parents became utterly convinced of an impending apocalypse. Dad sold his company, Mom quit her job, and Judy took an extended leave from school. I suspect that if dropping out hadn't required her personal presence, a waste of time in her view, Judy would have even quit school outright. Judy saw me working on the last big math problem and sneered, "Choices are often more important than effort. What does it matter if you can solve this problem? Even if you had the skills to be the top in the province, it's useless." Let me tell you, the college entrance exam might not even happen on that day. I feigned surprise, covering my mouth. "Little sister, what are you talking about? The exam is less than a month away. How could it not happen?" She snorted coldly and looked at me with pity. "Judy, oh Judy, in your past life you were just an ordinary survivor, so even after being reborn, you can't make much of a splash. The apocalypse you firmly believe in will never come." Over the weekend, I staked out the military academy gate and successfully found Ezekiel. Ezekiel, the leader of the survivor base in your previous life. Although he was just an ordinary junior college student before the apocalypse, he was born into a military family. His parents were both leaders of the military district, and his grandfather was even the legendary second-in-command. He was also a natural-born leader. After the apocalypse arrived, he not only awakened 3 types of supernatural abilities but also established a survivor base with an iron-fisted approach. Before my death, his base had already become the largest in the country, accommodating 100,000 people, and even developed a zombie vaccine. Unfortunately, I didn't live to see it. His sharp gaze swept over me as he spoke in an icy tone. "What do you want from me?" In my previous life, a zombie outbreak occurred while I was on my way to take the college entrance exam. Hiding in a car without food or water for 2 days, I was eventually rescued by Ezekiel. Back then, Ezekiel was also afraid, but he had already formed a small team to search for survivors. I awakened fire-based abilities, which were considered offensive, so I stayed by his side as his trusted confidant. Later, Judy became jealous of my high status at the base, my close relationship with Ezekiel, and the strong support I had from everyone. But did she ever stop to think, which of these things didn't I earn through sheer effort? After years of camaraderie, I knew Ezekiel's personality inside out. So I said bluntly, "In 13 days, the zombies will arrive. The serum from that lab in the northwest has leaked, and the world will face a crisis." Sure enough, although Ezekiel looked at me as if I were an idiot, he didn't outright call me crazy. "Your name is Ezekiel, both your parents are military district leaders, and your grandfather is." As I spoke, I pointed my index finger upward, the second in command. Ezekiel's expression turned serious, and he finally gave me his full attention. Soon, Ezekiel took me to his house, closed the door, and asked, "Where did you get this information?" "You told me." Ezekiel was straightforward, even a bit single-minded, so I didn't bother lying to him and directly told him about my rebirth. "You don't have to believe me, but I know your biggest secret." Meeting his puzzled gaze, I said without changing my expression, "When you were 6, you wet the bed and were too embarrassed, so you poured Florida water on it to cover up the smell. And when you were 10, you accidentally walked into the wrong restroom." Ezekiel quickly came over to cover my mouth. "All right, stop talking, I believe you. In our past lives, we were not just comrades who could trust each other with our backs, but we also developed feelings that went beyond friendship. At first, I didn't dare to kill zombies, and after killing them, I was scared." It was Ezekiel who silently encouraged me by my side. He said that the first time he saw me, he felt a flutter in his heart, so in this lifetime, I'm betting that the first time he sees me, he'll still fall in love with me. Seeing that he completely trusted me, I took out a small vial of reagent. "This is the zombie antidote developed by our base in the previous life. the security level of that Northwestern lab was so high that even his parents didn't know about it, so when he mentioned it to his grandfather immediately sent someone to investigate. The results turned out exactly as I had said, thus successfully preventing an experimental accident. Of course, all this was something we only learned later. After my rebirth, I didn't come to find Ezekiel right away. One reason was that I needed to prepare the antidote, and another was that he was at a military academy with closed-off teaching. I simply couldn't get in. Ezekiel asked me a few more questions about my past life before sending me home. I unexpectedly ran into Judy at the entrance of the neighborhood. She saw me with Ezekiel, her eyes filled with venom. "Sis, how could you be together with him?" Judy had met Ezekiel in her past life and was even infatuated with his looks and power, going so far as to strip naked to seduce him. Unfortunately, Ezekiel threw her straight out of the room, and many people witnessed it. "You're not also." Judy glared at me and Ezekiel with resentment. I quickly interjected, "I went out to buy books today. And my bag was snatched. This classmate helped me catch the thief." Judy visibly relaxed, smiling warmly at Ezekiel. "Handsome, you might not know this, but my sister here has never told the truth since she was a kid. Maybe that thief was in cahoots with her, just to get your attention." Such a low-level attempt to sow discord, yet it perfectly fits her foolish persona. Ezekiel looked at me with confusion, as if asking, "Is this really your sister?" I pursed my lips and shook my head. He didn't ask further, just gave me a few words of advice before preparing to leave. Ouch! Suddenly, Judy let out a delicate cry, pretending to twist her ankle as she leaned toward Ezekiel. Ezekiel quickly took a step back to avoid her. Judy had no time to retract her body and could only fall stiffly onto the concrete floor. It seems my little sister hasn't given up her thoughts of seducing Ezekiel. Looks like I need to find something to keep her busy, so she doesn't spend all day thinking about Ezekiel. The next day, while watching an apocalyptic movie at home, I timed Judy's return and muttered to myself, "This protagonist is so smart. They actually thought of buying a courtyard in the countryside. When the apocalypse comes, they can be self-sufficient, raising chickens, ducks, fish, and geese while growing vegetables. It's literally my dream of a laid-back life." Judy's eyes lit up as she fell into deep thought. I knew she had taken the bait. But she had already spent all her savings on stockpiling supplies and reinforcing her small Western-style house a while ago. Her parents couldn't possibly spare any more money to buy a rural courtyard now, so I threw countless small loans at my doorstep, and the one who could lend the most was the notorious local bully. After the apocalypse arrived and the social system collapsed, the borrowed money didn't need to be repaid, so the three of them went on a wild borrowing spree. I watched coldly and continued working on my chemistry problems. Judy scoffed dismissively, "You'll never surpass me." As expected, I bit my lower lip nervously and asked timidly, "Little sister, is the family really short on money lately? I still have a few dozen yuan saved up here. You can take it if you need it." She slapped my hand away, and the coins scattered on the ground. "I wouldn't even want your pathetic money." I didn't get angry either, just meekly replied, but we're family. "We're relatives. Who said I was with you?" Before she could finish, a light flashed in her eyes. "Right, there are still relatives." So she began urging her parents to borrow money from relatives. Most assumed something serious had happened at home and sent tens of thousands to her parents, but it was just a drop in the bucket. Judy called directly to demand money. "Auntie, I remember my brother just got married and received over $1 million in gifts, right? Don't be stingy, I'm telling you. There'll come a time when you'll beg me. If you transfer me $1 million right now, maybe I'll look after you in the future." The person on the other end of the line cursed loudly, followed by the sound of the call being hung up. Judy gritted her teeth and muttered a string of curses before saying viciously, "When the apocalypse comes, just wait to be bitten to death by zombies." The scolded aunt couldn't swallow her anger and called the parents again. So the father told her about the impending zombie apocalypse. "The kid is sick, and you actually believe her? I think you've all gone mad. Don't contact me anymore." The parents hesitated for a moment but ultimately chose to trust the daughter they had raised with their own hands. They borrowed close to $800,000 and immediately bought a self-built house in a remote rural area, then began reinforcing the property. $8 million seems like a lot, but with such a big house. Judy wanted everything to be the best. Time was tight, and the demand for materials was high, so the $8 million was quickly spent. They even managed to get a gun through special channels. With everything ready, Judy was clearly in a better mood. Every day, she would mock me in front of me, saying I wouldn't even know how I'd die, and that I could never compare to her. Looking at the message Ezekiel sent me, saying the zombie lab had been destroyed and telling me not to worry. I smiled mysteriously at the clownish figure before me. That's right, little sister, who knows how you'll die in the future. In my past life, the zombie outbreak happened on the very day of the college entrance exams. Judy and my parents went into the rural fortress early, leaving me alone to live in the small Western-style house. Although this house was sold, the handover was allowed only after I finished my college entrance exams. Sister, don't say our family treated you poorly. We let you live in the house until you came of age. Their family, this is clearly my biological parents, and how could Judy possibly be genuinely this kind-hearted? She left the house for me to live in, only to lock me inside and burn me to death. She bribed thugs to damage the doors and windows, trapping me inside. Then set the fire in the morning to kill me. Not lighting the fire at midnight was meant to ensure I died fully conscious. She truly despised me to the core. Unfortunately, the thug was caught red-handed by Ezekiel just as he was about to light the fire. How could I not be wary of Judy? In my past life, she learned I had awakened supernatural abilities. Fearing that zombies might not kill me this time, she decided to eliminate me before the outbreak. Not only had I contacted Ezekiel early, but I didn't even stay in the mansion. Instead, I moved to a hotel near the exam hall. The 2-day exam ended quickly. The streets were as lively and peaceful as usual, free from academic pressure. I started reviewing the surveillance footage. I had secretly paid the contractor reinforcing the doors and windows in advance to help me install hidden cameras in every room of my rural self-built house. At first, Judy and her parents lived cautiously in their self-built house, afraid to make noise during the day or turn on lights at night, because Judy feared their supplies might be stolen. Their self-built house was very remote, with no neighbors around and intermittent internet, so they didn't realize that zombies hadn't appeared. But soon, her parents noticed something was wrong because they started receiving debt collection calls. The debt collectors were relentless. No matter where you hid, if you owed money, they'd find you. Mom and Dad, learning there were no zombies and it wasn't the apocalypse, asked Judy in confusion. Judy couldn't believe it, muttering, "No way, no way." Mom hesitated for a moment and said, "Should we go outside and check?" Judy quickly stopped her. "No, the outside is full of zombies. If you get bitten, you're done for." So they waited at home for another 2 days, and this time, they waited until the debt collectors came. The door Judy had chosen was indeed zombie-proof level, extremely sturdy. The debt collectors tried every possible method but couldn't break it open, eventually leaving while cursing. Although no one was hurt, doubts began to grow in the parents' minds. The parents wanted to go out and see, but Judy wouldn't let them. The once unbreakable family finally developed a crack. They fight at home every day, and later Dad even slapped Judy across the face. Although he quickly realized his mistake and apologized to her, but Judy covered her face and said viciously, "I should have let the zombies bite you to death and not let you into my safe house." This rural self-built house was mostly paid for by Dad, yet Judy now says she won't let him in. Confined spaces already wear down one's will, and words can be more damaging than direct harm. This time, Dad was truly heartbroken. In the dead of night, he quietly drove away from the safe house alone. The moment he left, Judy immediately locked the door and shouted through a loudspeaker at Dad, "If you leave, don't even think about coming back. If you get bitten by zombies, don't expect me to save you." This sentence chilled Dad's heart even more, but when he drove into the city, he found everything was normal. No zombies, no apocalypse. Excited, he drove back to pick up Judy and Mom. Although Judy hesitated, she still refused to go out, firmly believing the world outside had ended. The helpless father had no choice but to take the mother away, but they forgot that the house had long been sold. The jobs were gone, and they were buried in debt. Now is the time to pay it all back. During this period, with Ezekiel's help, I managed to secure an early internship at the National Laboratory. Every day is packed to the brim, and when I drag my exhausted body out of the lab at night, I see a tall figure under the streetlight. "You've worked hard today." Ezekiel naturally takes the documents from my hands. "Let's go. I'll walk you home." After acting a bit spoiled with him, I suddenly realize it's been a while since I checked in on Judy. Ezekiel ruffled my hair with his big hand and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm keeping an eye out for you. If it weren't for you stopping me, I would have already had the police arrest them." I shook my head. Whether in this life or the last, they owe me far too much. Getting arrested by the police would be letting them off too easy. I want them to suffer eternal damnation. My parents borrowed a lot of money under Judy's persuasion. The repayment deadline for the formal bank hasn't arrived yet, but the loan sharks couldn't wait that long. They took my parents away and demanded repayment. With the interest compounding, the debt ballooned to 10 million in just half a month. Dad was shocked. I only borrowed 5 million from you. How can it be 10 million in just a few days? Scarface grinned sinisterly and thrust the dagger into the ground beside Dad's foot. The loan agreement was clearly written in black and white. And you signed it. Don't tell me you're trying to back out now. Only then did Dad remember. Judy had sworn up and down that the apocalypse was coming, so borrowed money wouldn't need to be repaid. That's why they hadn't bothered reading the contract, just took the cash without a second thought about the interest rates. Left with no choice, Dad had to turn to relatives for a loan first. But Judy had already managed to offend nearly every relative on good terms with them, so naturally, no one was willing to lend money again. Auntie said sarcastically on the phone, "Not that I want to say this, but didn't you all trust that mistaken daughter of yours? So, when is this doomsday she predicted coming? Me, relying on her to save me, Pa, unable to borrow money." Dad had one of his legs broken by the loan sharks, who gave him 3 days to repay the debt. This time, Mom and Dad didn't indulge Judy's whims anymore. Instead, they had someone drag her out of the safe house directly. At first, Judy was still very scared, but when she saw the lively scene on the street, she froze in shock. How could this be? No, this is all wrong. It shouldn't be like this. The streets should be overrun by zombies, with rivers of blood flowing. She acted like a madwoman, crying and laughing hysterically, even running over to overturn someone's stall. Her aunt saw it again and mocked, "I think your daughter has gone schizophrenic. It's a shame you actually believe a lunatic." Dad shook his head in disappointment. If I had known earlier, I would have chosen Molly when she came to claim kinship. I stood not far away, watching this family tear each other apart with a smile. "How are you still alive?" Judy, sharp-eyed, spotted me and rushed to kill me, but the next second, she was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Ezekiel stepped out from the shadows, shielding me in front of him. In just over 10 days, our circumstances had completely reversed. When I first met Judy, it was the day I went to claim kinship. I was dressed in drab, dusty clothes, while she stood on the stairs like a haughty princess. But now, I was clad in an expensive, vibrant gown, while she lay fallen on the ground, looking up at me. Worse still, in her attempt to evade the zombies, she not only lacked vitality but was also dressed in tattered clothes. This only further provoked Judy. She was unwilling to accept it, yet powerless to change anything, unable to bear it any longer. Mom stepped forward to hug her and suggested selling off assets to repay the debts. "Judy, don't worry, Mom won't let you suffer," she said. I felt nothing inside, no longer holding any expectations for my parents. After all, in my past life, I had already repaid them with my very existence. The goods weren't easy to sell, but when buying them, there was urgency, and many items were purchased at inflated prices. Now, selling them isn't so simple. Judy even tried to stop them from buying, insisting that the zombies were just delayed and might still come. Now, even her mother has completely lost hope in her, but their family's misfortunes didn't end there. On the day the college entrance exam results were released, my name appeared in various news reports and on school banners. Congratulations to Molly for achieving the highest score in the province on the college entrance exam. When my parents saw the news, they were stunned for a moment. My mother asked uncertainly, "Molly, our biological daughter?" My father nodded in a daze. They excitedly spread the word, claiming the top scorer in the college entrance exam was their biological daughter. Someone joked, "If Molly really were your biological daughter, wouldn't you be rolling in it? A top scorer in the college entrance exam, there must be millions in prize money, right?" Dad's eyes lit up as he grabbed Mom's hand excitedly and said, "That's great, we'll have the money to pay off the loan sharks." They rushed over to find me, only to realize they had no idea where I lived. The little foreign-style house was sold, and the school could finally clear out the dormitory. They returned in low spirits, only to see Judy glaring at them fiercely in the darkness. "Are you regretting it now? Going to find Molly? Planning to abandon me?" Father, dragging his disabled leg, gave her a cold look and went inside. Mother reached out to hold Judy's hand, but Judy pulled her hand away. Mother's expression froze for a moment, but she still explained softly, "Molly is the top scorer in the college entrance exam and has a few million in prize money. This money will just cover our loan shark debt." Judy's expression softened, but she still insisted stubbornly, "Mom, believe me, there really are zombies." Mother nodded perfunctorily, but in her heart, she became even more convinced that Judy had a mental illness. The loan sharks came knocking day after day, making it impossible for them to get a good night's sleep. Finally pushed to the edge, Dad began venting his frustration, blaming Judy for their troubles. Where's the apocalypse you promised? The zombies. Haven't seen a single hair of them. Judy opened her mouth to say there really were zombies, but this time, the words wouldn't come out. After all, it had been nearly a month since the doomsday she predicted was supposed to arrive. One day Judy was alone and got caught by Scarface, the lone shark. Scarface licked his lips creepily as he approached Judy. Heard your dad won't pay up. Guess you'll have to settle the debt with your body then. You're still young, must be a virgin, huh? Don't worry. After I'm done having my fun, I'll send you to the brothel to work off your debt. Judy ran backward in fear, but there was no escape. Wait, I have a way to pay you back. A month after the college entrance exam, Judy finally accepted the fact that zombies would no longer appear, and she even began to doubt whether the so-called past life was just a dream. Life had to go on, and the debt still needed to be repaid. So she turned her attention to her parents. When Ezekiel told me this news, I was somewhat surprised. After all, whether in her past life or this one, her parents truly cared for her with all their hearts. Ezekiel wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. You, this sister of mine from different parents, are truly a perfect egoist. I nodded in agreement, and the next moment, my earlobe stung slightly. Luckily, in this lifetime, you believe in me and are willing to come find me. Otherwise, I really would have been alone forever. I turned back in confusion. Molly, before I met you, I had never loved anyone, and I thought I never would, but the moment I saw you, I knew I was doomed to be yours for life. My response to him was a deep kiss. Meanwhile, Judy bought high-value insurance for her parents. Then, on a dark and stormy night, she held a large rock and struck her father's head repeatedly. Her mother woke up in shock, unable to believe what was happening, and tried to stop her, but saw Judy walking towards her with a stone in her arms. Mom, don't blame me, I'm at the end of my rope too. Mom's heart turned to ashes. Where have your father and I wronged you, that you would kill us? Since you were little, we've always given you the best of everything we had. Even though we knew you weren't our biological daughter, we never once thought of giving up on you. You said you were reborn, so we sold our house, our company, our storefronts, quit our jobs, even took out high-interest loans believing in you. Haven't we been good enough to you? A trace of malice flashed in Judy's eyes as she sneered. Good, it's clearly your favoritism. Only after Molly became the top scorer in the college entrance exams did you suddenly want to grovel at her feet. I'm telling you, Molly will never surpass me. She can forget about it. Didn't you say you loved me? I already bought insurance for you. Killing you would earn me tens of millions. If you love me, then die for me. The stones came crashing down one after another, tears welling up in Mother's eyes as her lips trembled incessantly. It seemed she was calling my name. Did she regret it, in her final moments, regretting that from beginning to end, she had always chosen the fake heiress over her own flesh and blood? Unfortunately, there are no regrets in this world. Soon, Mom stopped breathing. I handed this video as evidence to the police, but Judy had already fled. Judy reappeared on the day I reported to university. It had only been a month since I last saw Judy, yet she looked decades older. She had killed her parents to claim the insurance money, but the loan shark still hadn't let her off, leaving her utterly broken. Yet this was the path she had chosen. She had chosen to kill the parents who had always loved her, willingly sinking into depravity. She stood at the school gate, her eyes filled with venom, waiting for me. The moment she saw me, she immediately walked over. Ezekiel stood in front of me, protecting me. Judy's face twisted with anger. Ezekiel, do you really think Molly loves you? Even at this moment, she couldn't resist sowing discord between us. Ezekiel turned to look at me with deep affection, his eyes overflowing with tenderness. What could Molly possibly deceive me about? After all, it was me who fell in love with her at first sight and persistently pursued her until she agreed to be my girlfriend. Judy gritted her teeth in anger. Whether in this life or the last, no matter if she stripped to seduce or tried to sow discord, Ezekiel has always firmly chosen me. I stepped forward, looking down at Judy as if she were an ant. Molly, you must be thrilled to see me like this, aren't you? In our past life, you always acted so superior, thinking that saving me meant you could control my destiny. She didn't even care that her fingers were pierced by her own nails. What I hate the most is your expressionless face. She rushed at me, snarling. Do you think you've won? Let me tell you, you haven't. I had been on guard against her all along. The moment she moved, I immediately kicked her to the ground. Then, with alternating slaps, several heavy blows to the face directly left her cheeks swollen. Judy covered her face, her eyes filled with resentment. Why Why does everyone like you? Mom and Dad at the base also praise you, saying you truly are their daughter. Ezekiel likes you too, everyone at the base admires you, and now, you're even the top scorer in the college entrance exams. I crouched down and whispered in her ear, do you know why the zombies didn't come in this lifetime? Her widened pupils were filled with panic. The next second, she fell into madness, crying and laughing hysterically. So, ha ha ha, you ha 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 also reincarnated, that explains it. A moment later, she asked in confusion, but you're just an ordinary person, how could you possibly stop the zombies? In my previous life, I not only had to go out to fight zombies but also spent my free time helping in the laboratory. In this life or the last, I have never given up on learning, so I was involved in the development of the zombie antidote, and naturally, I know how to formulate it. I kicked Judy away. Even after being reborn, you're still as foolish as ever. Bang, everything happened within a single breath, so fast that no one could react. Judy suddenly pulled out a pistol and fired at me. Molly, Ezekiel was frantic with fear. He grabbed my hand, trying to pull me away. A smirk curled on Judy's lips, as if saying, so what if you were reborn? Whether in your past life or this one, you'll die by my hand. But soon, the smile in her eyes faded. The bullet did hit me, but I was completely unharmed. Ezekiel swiftly subdued Judy, wresting the gun from her hand. He pinned Judy's face to the ground with his knee. The police arrived quickly, and this time, Judy truly had no chance of escape. I already knew she had bought a gun, so how could I not be cautious? During this time, I avoided going out unless absolutely necessary. If I did go out, I always went with Ezekiel and wore a bulletproof vest. Finally, we reeled in this big fish. Later, I heard that Judy suffered greatly in the lab, as the phenomenon of rebirth held significant research value. With the help of Ezekiel's grandfather, I successfully concealed my identity. After graduation, Ezekiel got down on one knee and proposed to me, and I nodded in agreement. Later, I heard that Judy shouted, in the next life, I will definitely win against you, and then committed suicide. But I no longer paid attention, because now I have a perfect life. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.